Hey everyone, and welcome back to Speak Smart. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt put on the spot and the words just didn't come out right? Or maybe you've answered a question too quickly and later wished you had said something more thoughtful. What if I told you that a simple 3-second pause could be the key to unlocking a new level of confidence in your communication? It sounds too simple to be true, but in this video, we're going to break down the powerful psychology behind the 3-second rule and how you can use it to sound more confident, poised, and in control in any conversation. Let's get started. Introduction: the unseen power of the pause. In a world that often values quick wit and rapid-fire responses, we are conditioned to believe that the fastest speaker is the most intelligent, the most capable, and the most confident. We see it in movies where charismatic heroes always have the perfect comeback, and in debates where a moment's hesitation is framed as a sign of weakness. But what if this perception is not only wrong, but is actively undermining our ability to communicate effectively and confidently? Welcome to the world of the 3-second rule, a concept so deceptively simple that it's often overlooked, yet so powerful that it has the potential to fundamentally reshape how you are perceived by others and, more importantly, how you perceive yourself. This isn't a rule about how quickly you can pick up dropped food from the floor. This is a rule about reclaiming control in conversations, mastering your impulses, and projecting an aura of unshakable confidence. At its core, the 3-second rule is about the strategic use of silence. It is the conscious decision to take a brief 3-second pause before you speak, respond, or react. In those 3 short seconds, a remarkable transformation occurs. You shift from a state of emotional reactivity to one of thoughtful responsiveness. You give your brain the precious time it needs to move beyond the knee-jerk fight-or-flight instinct and engage the higher-level processing centers responsible for logic, reason, and nuanced communication. This article will serve as your definitive guide to understanding and mastering this transformative technique. We will delve into the fascinating neuroscience and psychology that explain why this simple pause is so effective. We will explore the 2 primary applications of this rule. One for enhancing your spoken confidence in high-stakes conversations, and another for overcoming the hesitation that so often paralyzes us from taking action. Through true and correct examples from the boardroom to casual social gatherings, you will see how this rule plays out in real life. We will provide you with practical, actionable steps to integrate this practice into your daily interactions, turning it from a conscious effort into a natural habit. We will also address common misconceptions, potential pitfalls, and how to navigate them with grace. By the end of this journey, you will not only understand the 3-second rule, but you will also be equipped to wield it as a powerful tool. A tool that will not just make you sound more confident, but will genuinely make you feel more confident, in control, and ready to handle any conversational challenge that comes your way. It's time to embrace the pause and unlock the confident speaker that has been within you all along. The 2 sides of the 3-second coin: action versus reaction. The 3-second rule is not a monolithic concept. In fact, its power lies in its dual application, addressing 2 of the most significant barriers to confidence: the fear of acting and the pressure of reacting. While they may seem like opposite approaches, one encouraging immediate action and the other advocating for a deliberate pause, they both serve the same ultimate goal: to override the brain's default programming of fear and anxiety, allowing your more confident, rational self to take control. Understanding both sides is crucial to mastering the full spectrum of confidence. 1. The rule of action: overcoming hesitation. This is perhaps the more commonly known interpretation of the rule, popularized in social dynamics and self-help circles. The principle is straightforward. When you have an impulse to do something that moves you toward a goal, you have a 3-second window to act on it before your brain kills the idea. Think about it. You're at a networking event and you see an industry leader you've always wanted to meet. Your first instinct is, I should go say hello. But then hesitation kicks in. What will I say? What if they're busy? What if I sound stupid? I'm not prepared. Within seconds, your brain, in its evolutionary duty to protect you from potential social rejection, which it perceives as a threat, has successfully talked you out of a potentially career-changing opportunity. The moment is lost. This is where the 3-second rule of action comes in. By physically moving within 3 seconds of the initial impulse, whether it's taking a step forward, opening your mouth to say hello, or raising your hand in a meeting, you short-circuit this internal debate. You act before the fear and self-doubt have a chance to take root. This is closely related to Mel Robbins' famous 5-second rule, which uses a countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go to achieve the same effect. The core idea is the same: to create a habit of action that overrides the habit of hesitation. Each time you successfully use this rule, you build a small amount of evidence that you are a person who takes action, which, in turn, builds your self-confidence. Example, in a social setting, you're at a party and see someone you find interesting across the room. Your instinct is to approach them. Instead of letting your mind fill with excuses, you count to 3 and start walking. By the time you reach them, the initial momentum has carried you past the point of no return, forcing you to engage. Example, in a professional setting, during a brainstorming session, a creative idea pops into your head. Instead of vetting it internally for flaws, you immediately raise your hand and share it. The 3-second rule of action encourages contribution over perfection, fostering a more confident and proactive presence. 2. The rule of reaction, mastering the confident pause. This is the other, more nuanced side of the coin, and it is the primary focus of our journey to sounding more confident. This application of the rule is about what you do when you are on the receiving end of a question, a challenge, or any conversational prompt. Here, the principle is the inverse of the first. Before you speak, respond, or react, take a deliberate 3-second pause. In a fast-paced conversation, our natural tendency is to fill the silence. We feel pressured to have an immediate answer, believing that a quick response signals intelligence and certainty. However, the opposite is often true. A rushed answer is frequently driven by the amygdala, the brain's emotional and threat detection center. It's a reactive, defensive response that can lead to poorly chosen words, rambling sentences, and a perceptible lack of composure. By consciously inserting a 3-second pause, you perform a mental gear shift. It signals control. To the other person, your pause doesn't read as uncertainty. It reads as thoughtfulness and deliberation. You are not flustered, you are considering their words. This projects an image of someone who is in complete control of their faculties even under pressure. It engages your prefrontal cortex. Those 3 seconds are just enough time for the electrical signals in your brain to travel from the reactive emotional centers to the prefrontal cortex, the home of rational thought, logic, and executive function. This is where your best, most articulate, and most strategic answers reside. It allows you to formulate your thoughts. Instead of starting to speak and trying to figure out your point along the way, the pause gives you a moment to structure your response. You can identify the core of the question, formulate your key message, and choose your opening words with intention. It regulates your physiology. A deliberate pause is often accompanied by a subtle, calming breath. This small act can slow your heart rate, lower your anxiety, and prevent the shaky voice or flushed face that often betrays a lack of confidence. Example in a job interview. The interviewer asks, "What is your biggest weakness?" Instead of blurting out a rehearsed or defensive answer, you pause. You make eye contact, take a quiet breath, and then begin. That's a great question. I've learned that one area for my continued growth is the pause has transformed a potentially tricky question into an opportunity to demonstrate self-awareness and composure. Example, in a tense negotiation, a client makes an unreasonable demand. Your gut reaction is to immediately argue back. Instead, you pause for 3 seconds. The silence hangs in the air, subtly underscoring the weight of their demand. It also gives you a moment to discard your emotional retort and instead formulate a calm, strategic response like, "Let me make sure I understand." You're proposing, "Can you help me see how that aligns with our initial agreement?" Both rules, action and reaction, are about wresting control from your brain's anxious, automated systems and placing it firmly in the hands of your conscious, confident self. The first rule teaches you to act before you think yourself into paralysis. The second teaches you to think before you speak yourself into a corner. Mastering both is the key to unlocking a truly robust and authentic confidence. The science of the pause. What's happening in your brain? To truly appreciate the power of the 3-second rule, we need to look beyond the surface-level effects and journey into the intricate workings of the human brain. The magic of this simple pause isn't magic at all. It's a direct and predictable consequence of our neurobiology. When you consciously decide to wait 3 seconds before responding, you are initiating a cascade of neural events that fundamentally alter the quality of your communication. The amygdala hijack, your brain's first responder. Imagine you're in a high-stakes meeting and your boss publicly challenges a key assumption in your presentation. In an instant, your body tenses, your heart rate quickens, and your mind goes blank or, conversely, floods with defensive retorts. You are experiencing what psychologist Daniel Goleman famously termed an amygdala hijack. The amygdala is a pair of small, almond-shaped clusters of neurons located deep within the brain's temporal lobe. It is a part of the limbic system, the brain's ancient emotional core. Its primary job is to act as a threat detector, constantly scanning your environment for potential danger. When it perceives a threat, whether it's a saber-toothed tiger in prehistoric times or a critical comment from your boss today, it triggers the fight-or-flight response. This response is incredibly fast and efficient. The amygdala floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, preparing your body for immediate physical action. It effectively short-circuits the slower, more deliberate parts of your brain because from an evolutionary standpoint, when you're facing a predator, you don't have time for a nuanced internal debate. You need to react now. The problem is that in the modern world, most of the threats we face are social or psychological, not physical. A challenging question is not a saber-toothed tiger, yet our brains often react as if they were one and the same. A rushed, defensive, or emotional answer is the verbal equivalent of fight or flight. It's your amygdala speaking, not your rational mind. This is the very essence of unconfident communication. The prefrontal cortex, the brain's CEO. This is where the 3-second rule becomes your neurological superpower. At the very front of your brain, just behind your forehead, lies the prefrontal cortex, PFC. This is the most evolved part of the human brain, the seat of our executive functions. The PFC is responsible for rational thought and logic, analyzing complex information and making reasoned judgments, problem solving and strategic planning, thinking through consequences and formulating multi-step plans, emotional regulation, calming the amygdala's alarm signals and managing emotional impulses, social cognition, understanding social cues, empathizing with others, and tailoring your communication to your audience. In short, the prefrontal cortex is the CEO of your brain. It's where your most thoughtful, intelligent, and confident responses are crafted. The 3-second bridge. The critical piece of the puzzle is the time it takes for these two brain regions to communicate. The amygdala's response is virtually instantaneous. The prefrontal cortex, however, takes a little longer to come online and process information. The neural pathway from the sensory organs to the PFC is longer and more complex than the direct line to the amygdala. This is the neurological gap that the 3-second rule so brilliantly exploits. When you intentionally pause for 3 seconds, you are creating a crucial buffer. You are consciously denying the amygdala the immediate reaction it craves. In those moments of silence, you are effectively saying, "Hold on, amygdala, I've got this." This pause gives the prefrontal cortex the time it needs to catch up. It can receive the information, assess the situation without the immediate filter of fear or defensiveness, and formulate a response that is aligned with your long-term goals, such as appearing confident, building rapport, or solving the problem at hand. Second 1, acknowledgement. Your brain registers the stimulus, the question or comment. The amygdala fires its initial alarm. Second 2, regulation. You take a conscious or subconscious breath. The PFC begins to receive the signal and starts to inhibit the amygdala's overwhelming response. Second 3, formulation. The PFC is now fully engaged. It analyzes the prompt, retrieves relevant information, structures a coherent thought, and chooses the appropriate words. When you finally speak, you are no longer the victim of an amygdala hijack. You are the master of your own mind, speaking from a place of calm, rational authority. Your response is not a reaction, it is a considered reply. And that, at its core, is the sound of true confidence. It's the sound of a fully engaged prefrontal cortex, a mind that is not rattled by pressure, but is instead given the space it needs to shine. Putting it into practice. How to apply the 3-second rule in real life. Understanding the theory behind the 3-second rule is one thing. Seamlessly integrating it into your daily interactions is another. Like any skill, it requires conscious practice before it becomes an ingrained habit. The key is to start small, in low-stakes situations, and gradually build your confidence to use it when the pressure is on. Here is a practical roadmap, complete with true and correct examples to help you master this technique. Phase 1. The training ground, low-stakes scenarios. The goal here is simply to get used to the feeling of pausing. At first, a 3-second silence might feel like an eternity. Your impulse will be to rush and fill it. Your job is to resist that impulse. With friends and family, these are your safest and most forgiving practice partners. Example. A friend asks, "What did you do this weekend?" Instead of immediately launching into a chronological list, take a breath. Pause for 1, 2, 3. Then, with a smile, say, the highlight was definitely This small pause allows you to choose the most interesting part of your weekend to share, making your story more engaging. Example. Your partner asks, "What do you want for dinner?" It's a simple question, but your automatic reply might be, "I don't know." Instead, pause. Think for 3 seconds about what you actually might enjoy. Then answer, I could really go for some Italian tonight. How does that sound to you? You've moved from passive indecision to a confident suggestion. In casual service interactions, ordering coffee, talking to a cashier, or asking a store clerk for help are all excellent opportunities for practice. Example, the barista asks for your order. Instead of stammering, take a brief moment to look at the menu, even if you already know what you want. Make eye contact, pause, and then clearly state your order. I'll have a medium latte with oat milk, please. The pause signals that you are deliberate and not rushed. Phase 2. The professional arena, medium stakes scenarios. Once you're comfortable with the pause in casual settings, it's time to bring it into your professional life. This is where the confidence-projecting benefits really start to become apparent. In team meetings, these are often fast-paced, but your deliberate pause will make you stand out. Example, a colleague asks for your opinion on a proposal. The old you might have said, "Yeah, it looks good," just to keep the conversation moving. The new you makes eye contact, nods thoughtfully, and pauses for 3 seconds. Then you say, "I appreciate the detailed work on the budget section. I do have one question about the timeline on page 2. You instantly sound more analytical and engaged. Your feedback carries more weight because you appeared to give it genuine consideration. On phone calls and video conferences, pausing is even more powerful in these settings, as it prevents you from interrupting others and shows you are listening intently. Example, you are on a video call and your manager asks you for a status update on your project. Before you unmute yourself, take a 3-second breath. This prevents you from starting with or You unmute and begin confidently. Things are progressing well. We've just completed the user testing phase, and the initial feedback is Phase 3, the high-stakes moments, the true test. This is where all your practice pays off. These are the moments that can define a career opportunity, a negotiation, or a leadership challenge. In a job interview, this is the classic scenario where nerves can cause you to ramble. The pause is your anchor. Example, the interviewer asks a behavioral question. Tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult coworker. Your heart might pound as you search your memory. Instead of panicking, you lean back slightly, make eye contact, and pause. That's a situation I've certainly encountered. This brief verbal cushion can be part of your pause. You take another breath. A specific instance comes to mind from my previous role. The pause has given you time to locate a specific, strong example from your memory banks, and you come across as poised and thoughtful, not flustered. During a difficult conversation or negotiation, when emotions are running high, the 3-second rule is your shield against reactivity. Example, a client is upset and says, "Your team completely missed the deadline and it's unacceptable." Your instinct is to get defensive and list excuses. Instead, you hold their gaze, listen fully, and when they finish, you are silent for 3 full seconds. The silence is powerful. It shows you have heard their frustration and are taking it seriously. Then, in a calm, measured tone, you respond, "I understand your frustration, and you are right to be upset. Let's walk through what happened, and more importantly, how we are going to fix it right now." You have de-escalated the situation and shifted the dynamic from conflict to problem-solving, all thanks to a simple pause. When answering questions after a presentation, Q&A, this is where your authority can either be solidified or undermined. Example, you've just finished a presentation and an audience member asks a complex, multi-part question that challenges your data. Instead of trying to answer all at once, You pause. You might even say, "That's an excellent and detailed question." Use the pause to break it down in your mind. Let me address the first part about the data source. By pausing, you take control of the question, answer it more effectively, and reinforce your expertise. Practical tips for implementation. Use a physical anchor. In the beginning, link the pause to a physical action. When a question is asked, consciously take a sip of water, gently tap your pen on your notepad, or simply focus on taking one slow, deep breath. Embrace the silence. Learn to become comfortable with silence. It doesn't need to be filled. Recognize that what feels like a long time to you is barely noticeable to your audience, who perceive it as thoughtful deliberation. Don't overdo it. The 3-second rule is a guideline, not a rigid law. A 2-second pause might be sufficient for a simple question, while a more complex one might warrant a 4 or 5-second pause. The key is intentionality. Combine with affirming language. You can bridge the pause with phrases like, "That's an interesting point," or "Let me think about that for a moment." This signals to the listener that you are engaging with their query, while giving you extra time to formulate your response. By practicing diligently, you will reprogram your conversational habits. The rushed, anxious responses of the past will be replaced by the calm, measured, and confident replies of a person who is truly in command of their communication. Beyond confidence, the ripple effects of the 3-second rule. While the most immediate and noticeable benefit of the 3-second rule is a marked increase in perceived and felt confidence, its positive effects do not stop there. Mastering this simple technique creates a series of powerful ripple effects that can enhance your relationships, improve your decision-making, and elevate your leadership potential in profound ways. It's not just about sounding better, it's about thinking, listening, and leading better. 1. It makes you a better listener. In most conversations, people are not truly listening. They are waiting for their turn to speak. While the other person is talking, they are busy formulating their rebuttal, their anecdote, or their next point. This is a recipe for misunderstanding and superficial connection. When you commit to the 3-second rule, you are forced to break this habit. You cannot be planning your response while the other person is talking, because you have already given yourself a dedicated silent space after they finish to do your thinking. This frees up your mental bandwidth to engage in active listening. You start to hear the nuances in their tone, pay attention to their body language, and grasp the full context of their message. You listen to understand, not just to reply. Real-world impact. Your colleagues begin to feel genuinely heard and respected by you. They see you as someone who values their input, which fosters trust and collaboration. In your personal life, your friends and family feel a deeper connection because you are more present and engaged in your conversations with them. 2. It improves the quality of your decisions and ideas. Impulsive reactions often lead to poor outcomes. When you fire off a quick, emotionally charged email, you can damage a professional relationship. When you agree to a request without thinking, you can overcommit yourself. When you blurt out the first idea that comes to mind, it may not be your best one. The 3-second pause is a built-in quality control mechanism. It acts as a final checkpoint before your words and decisions go public. In that brief window, your rational mind can ask critical questions. Is this response helpful or hurtful? Does this align with my long-term goals? Is there a better way to phrase this? Have I considered all the angles? This deliberate buffer allows you to filter out weak ideas, refine your arguments, and make choices that are strategic rather than reactive. Real-world impact. You make fewer unforced errors in your communication. You find yourself saying yes and no with greater intention and clarity. The ideas you contribute in meetings are more thoughtful and well-formed, earning you a reputation for strategic thinking. 3. It establishes you as a leader. True leadership is not about having all the answers instantly. It's about having the composure to handle pressure, the wisdom to think before acting, and the ability to create a sense of calm and control. The 3-second rule is a masterclass in demonstrating these qualities. Consider 2 leaders in a crisis. Leader A reacts immediately, speaking with a sense of urgency and panic, offering rapid-fire but disorganized solutions. Leader B, when faced with the same crisis, becomes still. They listen to all the information, take a visible, calming pause, and then begin to speak in a measured, deliberate tone, laying out a clear, step-by-step plan. Who would you rather follow? The pause signals that the leader is not overwhelmed. They are processing, strategizing, and are in command of the situation. This composure is contagious. It reassures the team and inspires confidence that the challenge, no matter how great, is manageable. Real-world impact. You become the person people turn to in high-pressure situations. Your ability to remain calm and thoughtful under fire marks you as a reliable and effective leader, whether you have the official title or not. You de-escalate conflicts rather than fueling them, creating a more stable and productive environment around you. 4. It gives you greater emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, EQ, is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, as well as to recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of others. The 3-second rule is a practical tool for developing EQ. The pause creates a space between an emotional trigger and your response. In that space, you have the opportunity to identify the emotion you are feeling, e.g., anger, anxiety, insecurity, without immediately acting on it. This self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence. It allows you to choose a response that serves you, rather than being a slave to your fleeting emotional state. Real-world impact. You become less prone to emotional outbursts or defensive reactions. You build stronger relationships because people know they can have difficult conversations with you without provoking a negative emotional response. You navigate the complex social landscape of the workplace and life with greater finesse and understanding. In essence, the 3-second pause is a keystone habit. It's a small change that triggers a chain reaction of positive transformations. It starts by changing how you speak, which then changes how you listen. Changing how you listen changes how you think, and changing how you think ultimately changes how you lead and live. It is the subtle art of doing less to achieve so much more. The Rule of 3, a powerful companion to your pause. As you become more adept at using the 3-second pause, you'll find that it gives you a crucial window to not only decide what to say, but also how to structure it for maximum impact. One of the most effective and time-tested communication principles you can employ in this window is the Rule of 3. The Rule of 3 is a writing and speaking principle that suggests that things that come in threes are inherently more humorous, more satisfying, and more memorable than other numbers of items. From fairy tales, The Three Little Pigs, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, to historical slogans, Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, to modern marketing, just do it. Our brains are naturally wired to find patterns in threes to be complete and effective. Combining your 3-second pause with the Rule of 3 creates a 1-2 punch of confident and persuasive communication. The pause gives you the time to think, and the Rule of 3 gives you a simple, powerful structure to organize those thoughts. How it works in practice. When someone asks you a complex question, use your 3-second pause to silently identify the 3 most important points you want to make. Then, when you begin speaking, you can even signal this structure to your audience, which further enhances your perceived organization and confidence. Job interview scenario. Interviewer: why should we hire you for this position? Your pause, 3 seconds. Mentally, you identify. 1. My experience matches. 2. I'm a cultural fit. 3. I'm a fast learner. Your response: I believe I'm a strong candidate for 3 main reasons. First, my 5 years of experience in project management align directly with the core responsibilities you've outlined. Second, from our conversation, it's clear that your team values collaboration, which has always been a key part of my working style. And finally, I'm passionate about this industry and am a very quick learner, so I'm confident I can start contributing from day one. Business meeting scenario. Colleague: what are your main concerns about this new marketing strategy? Your pause, 3 seconds. Mentally, you identify. 1. Budget. 2. Timeline. 3. Target audience. Your response: thank you for asking. Looking this over, I have 3 areas I'd like to discuss. The first is the budget. I think we may need to allocate more for digital ads. The second is the timeline. It seems a bit aggressive for Q3. And third, I want to make sure we've clearly defined our target audience for this campaign. Why this combination is so powerful. It projects clarity and control. Beginning your answer with, there are 3 key points I'd like to make, instantly signals to your listeners that you are organized and have a clear, structured thought process. This is the epitome of confident communication. You are not rambling. You are delivering a well-considered argument. It makes your message memorable. As mentioned, the human brain finds it easy to latch onto and retain information presented in threes. Your audience is far more likely to remember your 3 points than if you had presented a disorganized list of 5, 7, or 10 items. It forces you to prioritize. The constraint of choosing only 3 points forces you to discard weaker arguments and focus on your most compelling evidence. This leads to a more concise, powerful, and persuasive message. You cut the fluff and get straight to what matters. It gives you a clear finish line. When you structure your answer in 3 parts, you and your audience both know when you're done. This prevents you from rambling on after you've made your point, a common pitfall when speaking nervously. You can deliver your 3rd point and then stop, ending on a strong, confident note. Using your 3-second pause to structure your thoughts into a triad is an advanced technique that can elevate your communication from simply confident to truly authoritative and influential. It turns a simple Q&A into an opportunity to showcase your strategic thinking and leave a lasting positive impression. Conclusion: your 3-second transformation. We began this journey with a simple premise, that a pause of just 3 seconds holds the power to transform your communication and, with it, your confidence. We have traveled from the social dynamics of overcoming hesitation to the intricate neuroscience of the amygdala hijack. We have explored practical, real-world applications in job interviews, tense negotiations, and everyday conversations. We have seen how this small, intentional silence can make you a better listener, a sharper thinker, and a more respected leader. The 3-second rule is not a gimmick or a trick. It is a profound act of mindfulness, a conscious choice to reclaim the space between stimulus and response. In that space lies your power. It is the space where you trade reactivity for responsiveness, anxiety for authority, and impulse for intelligence. Your challenge now is to take this knowledge and put it into action. Start today, in the very next conversation you have. When asked a question, resist the urge to answer immediately. Feel the silence for 1 beat, then 2, then 3. Take a quiet breath. Let your rational mind come to the forefront. Then speak with the calm, measured tone of someone who is in complete control. The journey to unshakable confidence is not built on grand, sweeping gestures. It is built on small, consistent, and intentional habits. The 3-second rule is perhaps the most powerful and accessible of them all. Remember the 2 sides of this powerful coin. Use the rule of action to push past your comfort zone and seize opportunities before hesitation can stop you. Use the rule of reaction to master the art of the confident pause, ensuring that when you speak, your words carry the weight and wisdom they deserve. Welcome back to Speak Smart. By embracing the pause, you are not just learning to sound more confident. You are becoming a more thoughtful, intentional, and powerful communicator. You are learning to master the moments that matter. The transformation begins not in a roar, but in the quiet, deliberate power of a 3-second silence. Start practicing it now and watch as the world begins to listen to you in a whole new way. So there you have it, the 3-second rule. It's a small change that can make a massive difference in how you're perceived and, more importantly, how you feel. Start practicing it in your daily conversations and watch your confidence soar. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Speak Smart, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video on mastering your communication skills. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Have you ever used a similar technique? Or where do you plan on trying the 3-second rule first? Thanks for watching, and remember to speak smart.